Turn it loud, turn it up. Yeah! Alarm clock yelling, I'm already late. Got crumbs on the shirt, syrup on the plate. Dialing the chaos, breakfast in the booth. We flipping these stories, stacking up the truth. Burnt edge headlines, center stay sweet. News in the napkin, served on the beat. From the first black coffee to the drive time jam. If you're hungry for the real, you know who I am. Let's go. We got call-ins, hot takes, phones all ring. Side jokes, same old thing. Bites of the big report. Say it with your chest when you say that. This is the Waffle Report. Wake up, break out, cut through the noise. This is the Waffle Report. Crunch time chatter for the girls and boys. Flip that script, don't twist, don't toy. Say it one more time. The Waffle Report. Hey, say it one more time. The Waffle Report.
Welcome back to the broadcast, and a massive shout out to you, the listener, for tapping in today.
Absolutely. Good to be here.
Whether you are commuting right now, or maybe you're in the gym, or just sitting at your desk trying to look incredibly busy for the boss, we see you.
We appreciate you.
We really do. If you are here listening to this, you are officially part of the Waffle fam.
That's the family.
Period. And we are coming to you today with just some really raw, unscripted energy because, man, we have an absolute mountain of culture and critique to get through today.
So much material.
Just a ton of street smart wisdom to sift through. So the mission for this deep dive is to basically take the pulse of the streets, the studio, and the boardroom.
Bridging all of them together.
Exactly. We are unpacking the latest heavy-hitting drops and editorial pieces fresh off the digital presses at foldedwaffle.com.
The central hub.
Right. Think of this broadcast as your weekly alignment. We are bridging that hood knowledge with real-world growth, all in one sitting.
And I gotta say, the landscape we were covering today is, it's incredibly vast.
It really is.
Because Folded Waffle doesn't just, hand you a playlist and send you on your way. They provide a comprehensive cultural syllabus.
A syllabus. I like that word for it.
Right. Because we are going to be moving from the gritty realities of underground hip-hop releases to Bay Area community rituals, and then straight into some very necessary and honestly sometimes uncomfortable discussions.
The real talk.
The real talk about mental wealth, industry ownership, and how you actually go about protecting your personal frequency in a world that is just constantly trying to drown you in static.
That static is loud right now, too.
It is deafening. So it's about taking the artistic struggle and applying those lessons directly to your daily hustle.
A cultural syllabus. I really love that framing. Because to kick things off, I was scrolling through the site's bar top bites and the booth seating sections, checking out the new waffle drops.
Yeah, what caught your eye?
I immediately noticed this intense duality in the music they are highlighting. It is like watching two completely different generations of the culture colliding in real time.
Give me an example.
Okay, so on one side you have L. Tate breaking down Fivio Foreign's new official video for Rat Trap, which just dropped on February 1st.
A heavy drill sound.
Super heavy. But then right next to it you have M. Rodriguez reviewing Rusted Jux's new joint, Nightlife, produced by Wounded Buffalo Beats.
Completely different vibes.
Entirely different. Now, for the listener who might just be a casual hip-hop fan, these are two entirely different sonic universes, right?
They are completely different ecosystems, let alone universes.
Yeah.
And placing them side by side on the site like that is a brilliant editorial move by Folded Waffle.
How so?
Well, for anyone who hasn't been in the actual trenches of the modern drill scene, think of Fivio Foreign's Rat Trap as pure, unfiltered anxiety set to music.
Unfiltered anxiety. Wow.
That's what Brooklyn drill is characterized by, right? Those sliding, unpredictable 808 bass lines, the skittering, frantic hi-hats.
It's very urgent.
The tempo is fast. The vocal delivery is urgent. It's highly reactive music. It captures the immediate visceral pulse of the modern concrete jungle.
Yeah, it literally sounds like a chase scene to me. You press play, and it gets your heart rate up immediately.
Precisely. It's pure adrenaline. But then you pivot over to Rusted Jux and Wounded Buffalo Beats.
Right. Nightlife.
Nightlife is rooted in the golden era boom bap tradition.
The foundation.
And when we say boom bap, we are literally talking about the foundational drum structure of hip hop. That heavy kick, drum, boom on the one and the three. and the cracking snare bap on the 2 and the 4.
Just that steady, head-nodding rhythm.
Exactly. It demands a completely different type of listening from you. Boom bap is reflective. It gives the MC the physical space to weave a narrative, to be grounded.
So it's not a chase scene.
No, it's a conversation on the stoop.
Yeah.
By curating both of these sounds, Folded Waffle is making a profound statement to you, the listener. You don't have to choose between the frantic energy of the club and the lyrical depth of the cipher.
You can have both.
You are allowed to hold both frequencies.
I completely agree with that. But let me play devil's advocate for a second here.
Go for it.
The music industry, and specifically the streaming algorithms, they don't want us holding both frequencies.
Not at all.
Like if you listen to drill, Spotify feeds you drill for the next 3 hours. It actively tries to box you into a specific demographic.
To keep you predictable.
Right. So how does a platform like Folded Waffle push back against that algorithmic pigeonholing?
They push back by aggressively expanding the curation beyond what any machine learning model would ever suggest. The algorithm is designed to keep you comfortable. True cultural curators are designed to stretch your palate.
And man, they really do stretch it. If you look at the rest of the Bar Top Bite section, the diversity is actually wild.
It's all over the map.
You'll be scrolling through hip-hop and suddenly there's Struggle Jennings with a track called Last Name.
Oh, yeah?
Which brings this deep southern country rap grit to the table. And then you scroll down and Ernest pops up with the official video for Lorelei.
Delivering a totally different melodic country-adjacent flavor.
Exactly. And right after that, we get Joyce Manners. I used to go to this bar, bringing this raw, indie, almost pop-punk energy.
Right.
At first glance, you might look at that page and think, what do these artists have in common? But it actually perfectly reflects how you and I and the listener listen to music today.
Nobody's playlist is just one genre anymore.
Nobody's.
We are absolutely living in a post-genre world. The artificial walls that major labels built in the 90s and 2000s, where the rock department didn't talk to the hip-hop department, those walls have crumbled.
Thank God they did.
When you put Joyce Manor next to Struggle Jennings, next to Fivio Foreign, you are telling the listener that a good song is simply a good song. Expanding your auditory diet is the first step to expanding your worldview.
That's a bar right there.
If you can appreciate the storytelling in a Southern country ballad, you are much more likely to appreciate the storytelling in a gritty underground rap track. The emotional core is exactly the same. Only the instrumentation changes.
Speaking of instrumentation, that actually leads me to a trend on the site that I am genuinely thrilled about.
What's that?
It feels like the architects of the sound, the producers, are finally getting their spotlight back.
Oh, absolutely. Long overdue.
M. Rodriguez did a deep dive on an instrumental album called Frequencies of Aura by the Top 1%.
Incredible project.
It really is. It feels like for the last decade, it's always been about the voice on the mic or the viral dance or the catchy hook. The producer was just the guy who emailed the beat.
The background guy.
Right. But an entirely instrumental album. That requires a totally different level of engagement from the listener.
It absolutely does. I like to think of instrumental hip-hop as mood architecture.
Mood architecture. I like that.
Historically, producers were the co-stars of the movement. Think about Eric B. and Rakim.
Legends.
Or Pete Rock and CL Smooth. The beat was the foundation of the house. Without it, the lyrical walls would just collapse.
They'd have nothing to stand on.
When a producer like the Top 1% drops a project like Frequencies of Aura, they're essentially handing you, the listener, a blank sonic canvas. There is no vocalist telling you how to feel or what to think about.
You fill in the blanks yourself.
It invites you to project your own daily hustle, your own stress onto the beat. It's an incredibly meditative experience that the fast food music industry usually neglects.
Mood architecture is a perfect way to describe it. But when the producers do link up with the MCs right now, the collaborative firepower is off the charts.
It's crazy right now.
I was looking at the sheer volume of underground alliances highlighted on Folded Waffle this week, and it's staggering.
Read some of the names off.
We've got Stick Figa and Vic Spencer teaming up for a track called Till the World Ends, with Mike Jones Beats handling the production.
Heavy hitters.
Then you have Tally Rodriguez, G-Fam, Black, and Piro joining forces on The Foolery, produced by Fled Blee Est.
Another crazy lineup.
And we absolutely cannot ignore the Mega Powers duo, which is J-Bucks and Jimmy Zoe. They dropped a single called Hellfire and Brimstone and immediately followed it up with a full album titled World War III. Plus, we're seeing new drops like Dope Knife's Rent Due, Damo the Great linking with Marv 1 on Dead Bodies, and Spice teaming up with CJ the Chemist for Degree.
The sheer volume of those names alone proves a point.
Right. But here's my question for you. Why now?
Why the team-ups?
Yeah, why are we seeing this massive resurgence of the mega collaboration in the underground? Because for a minute it felt like everyone was just trying to get famous in their own bedroom on TikTok. Why this sudden urge to form these giant Voltron-style supergroups?
It is a direct strategic response to the hyper-individualism of the streaming era.
Break that down.
The corporate music machine actually prefers artists to be isolated. If every independent artist is fighting alone for the same meager fraction of a penny on Spotify, the platform holds all the leverage.
Divide and conquer.
Exactly. But when artists collaborate, when Stick Figa links with Vic Spencer, or when J-Bucks and Jimmy Zoe form mega powers, they are doing something incredibly dangerous to the corporate structure. They are pooling their resources.
They are cross-pollinating their fan bases.
Yes. If I have 5,000 hardcore fans in Chicago and you have 5,000 hardcore fans in Atlanta, by collaborating, we just introduced our art to 10,000 people without spending a single dime on major label marketing.
That is genius.
It is a brilliant survival tactic that doubles as incredible art. These underground artists are realizing that they don't need a corporate savior to build infrastructure. They can build their own infrastructure through strategic alliances. It's the ultimate form of independent leverage.
That concept of independent leverage ties perfectly into the deep dive reviews happening in the booth seating section.
Ed Davis is doing great work over there.
Ed Davis has been putting in serious work. On January 23rd, Davis dropped an editorial rated 7.6 titled The Lyrical Masterclass of Shoraka Corey Guns and Mickey Fax.
Some serious lyricists.
And honestly, in today's era where entire careers are launched off a 15-second catchy hook that someone can do a TikTok dance to dedicating thousands of words to unpack a lyrical masterclass feels almost rebellious.
It is entirely rebellious.
Yeah.
And it's ultrally necessary. We have to differentiate between a viral moment and a lyrical masterclass.
What's the difference to you?
A viral moment is a sugar rush. It hits your bloodstream fast, but you forget about it by tomorrow. A lyrical masterclass is a full, nutrient-dense meal. When Davis writes about artists like Corey Guns and Mickey Fax, we are talking about MCs who treat the English language like a martial art.
So break that down for the listener. What actually elevates a verse from just being good rapping to a lyrical masterclass?
It comes down to the mechanics of the pen. A lyrical masterclass involves elite breath control, the ability to deliver complex cadences without sounding winded.
Just gliding over the beat?
Exactly. It involves multi-syllabic rhyme schemes, where an artist isn't just rhyming the last word of a sentence, but rhyming 3 or 4 syllables in the middle of the bar. It's about double entendres, where a line has 2 or 3 different meanings depending on how you look at it. And narrative pacing.
It's architecture again.
Yes. By dedicating a full editorial to unpacking these specific skills, Folded Waffle is preserving the standard of the culture. They are reminding the younger generation that long before an algorithm dictated the balance of a track, the sharpness of the pen dictated your respect in the streets.
The pen dictated the respect. I need that on a t-shirt immediately.
It's the truth.
And Davis followed that piece up with another 7.6 rated review a few days earlier, exploring something totally different. It's called The Raw Poetry of Alignment, a deep dive into blue flame hues, the 118 theory.
Deep read.
Now, I want to camp out here for a second because this word alignment keeps coming up in creative and cultural spaces. But what does it actually mean, practically speaking, when an artist finds their alignment? And for those who haven't read the piece, what exactly is the 118 theory?
So alignment in the true cultural sense is the complete removal of friction between who an artist is in real life and who they pretend to be on the microphone.
So no more pretending.
None. It's when their lived truth matches their sonic output flawlessly. We've all heard artists who are misaligned. They sound like they are wearing a costume. You can hear the effort it takes for them to sound tough or rich or profound.
It sounds hollow.
It sounds incredibly hollow. Alignment is effortless authenticity. Now, as for the 118 theory explored by Blue Flame Hughes, it's a fascinating philosophical framework.
How does it work?
Think about the periodic table, which has 118 elements. Those elements make up all known matter in the universe. The theory suggests that true raw poetry requires an artist to find their exact elemental composition.
Finding their own elements.
To understand the raw materials of their own trauma, their joy, their environment, and their history, and combine them to create something undeniably real. When an artist operates from that level of elemental truth, it resonates in the actual bones of the listener because it is mathematically and spiritually authentic.
That is heavy, finding your elemental truth. And I think that quest for alignment is why we are seeing such a strong focus on conscious voices and lived experiences on the site right now.
It's a natural progression.
V. Chen recently reviewed a track by an artist named Nikolai called This Is Our Home. Chen specifically highlights that Nikolai is a conscious hip-hop artist whose entire catalog is centered on grounded, working-class, lived experiences.
Very grounded.
And he's not alone. A Davis did an artist spotlight on Inner Rebel Rel representing the South, highlighting her track Collectin' Tithes. M. Rodriguez shouted out the group No OF Fun with a track called Sell You a Dream. And V. Chen covered Bobby Jagger-Jack's I Regret It.
All very real titles.
Right. These aren't just background music for a party. These are absolute street-level testimonies.
Street-level testimony is the perfect way to frame it. Conscious hip-hop often gets a bad rap in mainstream circles for being overly preachy, like someone rapping at you from a mountaintop telling you to eat your vegetables.
Nobody wants that.
But artists like Nikolai Inner Rebel Rel and Bobby Jagger-Jack are completely redefining it. They aren't rapping from a mountaintop. They are rapping from the front porch, from the corner store, from the break room of a 9-to-5 job.
Look at those titles again.
Right. Collectin' Tithes. Sell You a Dream. I Regret It. Before you even press play, those titles tell a story of economic struggle, of surviving deception, of profound vulnerability.
They are documenting the reality that the glossy mainstream narrative actively tries to sweep under the rug.
Exactly. Mainstream media wants to sell a fantasy of endless luxury and zero consequences. These independent artists are providing a necessary voice for the working class realities. They are the true journalists of the community.
That is a brilliant transition right there, because if we are talking about the community, we have to look at how this culture gathers offline.
The physical spaces.
Yes. Let's step out of the soundscape for a minute and look at the culture in motion. I was reading a piece by L. Tate about community events, specifically this massive series happening at San Francisco's brick-and-mortar music hall.
Oh, the Return of the MC.
Yeah. It's the 14th installment, Roman numeral NXE, of the Return of the MC series. L. Tate described this event in a way that really stuck with me.
What'd they say?
Tate wrote that this event is specifically for the Waffle fam, who value, quote, grown person rap and the raw essence of the culture.
Grown person rap.
Now I have to stop here. Grown person rap. Sometimes when people hear that phrase, they roll their eyes and think it's just older heads complaining about the youth saying back in my day.
Right, the old man yelling at clouds trope.
Exactly. But what does grown person rap actually mean to you? How does a genre built on youthful rebellion age gracefully?
It's a crucial conversation. Because for the first few decades of its existence, hip-hop was viewed strictly as a youth movement. It was a sound of adolescent rebellion, of young people shouting to be heard.
Right.
But the founders of the culture and the fans who grew up with it in the 80s and 90s are adults now.
They have real life going on.
They have mortgages. They have teenage children. They are navigating 401ks, divorces, and adult heartbreak. Grown person rap is not about complaining about the youth. It is about creating music that speaks to those mature realities without losing the foundational boom-bap essence or the competitive lyrical spirit.
So it's the difference between rapping about sneaking out of the house versus rapping about trying to keep the house.
That's exactly it.
Yeah.
And events like Return of the MC, which has a deeply respected legacy in the Bay with Installment 13 down at Jack London and Installment 12 back in August. These are vital sanctuaries.
They aren't just retro parties.
They are not nostalgia acts. They are not oldies concerts. They're living, breathing proof that the culture can mature, age gracefully, and still maintain a razor-sharp edge. It provides a physical space for the mature listener to commune with the raw essence of the art form they love, surrounded by peers who share their lived experience.
It's true community building in real life. And speaking of building community in innovative ways, we have to talk about Flamingo Fred.
Flamingo Fred is making moves.
Big moves. V. Chen highlighted an editor's pick about this hip-hop showman, and he just announced a new animated series called For the Culture. He actually put out an open call for local voice talent.
Getting the community involved.
Right. But Fred isn't just hiding behind a computer screen making cartoons. Davis also covered his live involvement in History of the Bay Day 2025, which is an event dedicated to honoring legacy, elevating culture, and uniting the Bay Area.
It's multifaceted.
It is fascinating to see how hip-hop is extending its tentacles beyond just music and live shows and using mediums like animation to literally draw the community together.
Animation is such a powerful and honestly vastly untapped frontier for hip-hop storytelling.
Why do you think that is?
Think about the mechanics of a rap verse.
Yeah.
MCs have been using wild, hyperbole, complex metaphors, and surreal imagery for decades. Animation is the only visual medium where you can break the laws of physics to actually visualize those lyrics.
That makes total sense.
But what makes Flamingo Fred's approach so brilliant is the community aspect. By putting out an open call for local voice talent for the culture, he is decentralizing the Hollywood machine.
Taking the power back.
He isn't waiting for a major studio to greenlight his vision. He is bringing the means of production directly back to the local community. It ties perfectly into the ethos of History of the Bay Day 2025. He is honoring the legacy of the Bay Area, not just by looking backward at what happened, but by creating new platforms to carry the culture forward.
Speaking of the means of production, we have to talk about the business side of the media machine.
The corporate side.
And for this next part, we are going to look at these pieces completely impartially, just reporting on the intense conversations happening on the Folded Waffle site, because Knight dropped a couple of massive articles regarding Charlemagne Tygod.
Always a lightning rod for conversation.
Always. One piece covers Charlemagne breaking his silence on his $200 million deal with iHeartRadio, and it really dives into the unfiltered truth about podcasting, corporate power, and ownership.
It's a huge deal.
But then Knight published another article noting Charlemagne's specific statement that the famous Dame Dash interview, the legendary one where Dame challenged every host in the room to be the boss and own their own masters, Charlemagne said that interview actually didn't motivate them to become entrepreneurs.
It is a fascinating, complex case study in the modern media landscape.
Break down the two sides of this for us.
When you read Knight's analysis of these events, you are looking at the central defining tension of the modern creative industry. On one side of the spectrum, you have the Dame Dash ethos. Total uncompromising independence.
Right.
The philosophy that owning 100% of a smaller pie is always better than owning a fraction of a massive corporate pie. That is the ultimate entrepreneurial ideal in hip-hop.
Right. I'd rather be the boss of a corner store than an employee at a giant conglomerate.
Precisely. But on the other side of the spectrum, you have the reality of astronomical corporate partnerships, like a $200 million media deal. The ongoing conversation the culture is grappling with right now is about scale versus sovereignty.
Scale versus sovereignty.
Do these massive corporate partnerships provide the necessary infrastructure to scale a culturally important platform to a global level that pure independence could never reach? Or does taking corporate money inherently compromise the sovereign, unfiltered voice of the creator?
And what I appreciate about Folded Waffle is that they aren't telling you what to think. They are presenting the tension from multiple angles.
You have to weigh the options yourself.
Because whether you are an independent artist pressing your own vinyl in your garage or a successful podcaster staring at a massive corporate contract, you eventually have to weigh these exact concepts of leverage, reach, and ownership.
It's the ultimate test.
It really is. Let's take that tension, that struggle between independence and the machine, and shift our energy into our Real Talk segment where we dive into the mental trenches of the industry.
Let's get into it.
Knight wrote an editorial for the playlist section titled Building Altars Out of Industry Scraps.
Such a powerful title.
I literally had to stop and sit with that title for a minute when I read it. Building altars out of industry scraps. What a profoundly heavy metaphor for the life of an independent creator.
It is one of the most profound metaphors I've seen applied to the independent hustle. Let's actually unpack what industry scraps are in the real world.
Please do.
They are the polite rejection emails from A&Rs. They're the literal fractions of a penny you receive from a streaming service for your life's work. They are the closed doors, the gatekeeping, the empty venues you play to 3 people when you were first starting out.
It's brutal out there.
To the average rational person, those scraps are flashing neon signs telling you to quit.
It's enough to break anyone's spirit, honestly, so how do you build an altar out of that?
Building an altar out of scraps means you undergo a radical, almost spiritual reframing of your failure. It means you take the pain, the marginalization, and the disrespect, and instead of letting it make you bitter, you treat it as something sacred.
Wow.
You start stacking those rejections like bricks to build a sanctuary for your own art. You take the scraps the industry threw away, and you use them to construct an independent foundation that no executive can ever take away from you.
Stacking rejections like bricks to build a sanctuary. That connects so deeply to another incredible editorial by O. Davis titled The Unfiltered Hustle, 4 artists decoupling success from the corporate machine.
Decoupling is the key word.
In that piece, Davis points out that the music industry's concrete jungle is literally littered with skeletons. Thousands of artists who tried to play the major label game and got eaten alive by the machine.
It happens every day.
And right alongside that piece, the site featured Breaking the Cycle, a prairie rap renaissance. It seems like the recurring theme here is artists desperately trying to find alternative ecosystems to survive in.
Because the traditional ecosystem is toxic. The skeletons in the concrete jungle that Davis refers to are the artists who believe the lie that there is only one path to success. Getting signed, moving to New York or LA, and getting on mainstream radio.
The old model.
When that singular path was blocked, they perished creatively. Decoupling success from the corporate machine requires a total redefinition of what a win looks like.
What does a win look like now?
It might not mean a platinum plaque on your wall. It might mean owning your master recordings, touring regionally in a van, and cultivating a direct, unfiltered, and deeply loyal relationship with 5,000 hardcore fans who will buy absolutely anything you put out.
And that's what a prairie rap renaissance represents, right? Thriving in places the industry usually ignores.
Exactly. It represents building a sustainable, profitable life in the Midwest, in the South, in the prairies far away from the traditional coastal industry hubs. It's about choosing a sustainable life as a working-class artist, rather than chasing a fleeting one-in-a-million lottery ticket.
But man, the psychological toll that chase takes on an artist is incredibly heavy.
It breaks people.
Let's talk about that weight for a second. Davis also wrote a piece called The Concrete Glass, Confidence Cracks and the Weight of the Mic, and paired it with The Concrete Gospel, Volume 2, Finding Mental Clarity in the Booth.
2 essential reads.
The concrete glass is such a visceral image. As fans, we expect our favorite artists to be made of solid concrete. Impenetrable, bulletproof, unbothered by the world. But in reality, they are made of glass.
That is the immense, unspoken psychological pressure of hip-hop culture. Historically, hip-hop is an intensely competitive, hyper-masculine space.
You can't show weakness.
Right. In that environment, showing vulnerability has often been viewed as a fatal liability. The weight of the mic is the crushing daily pressure to project absolute invulnerability, to always portray yourself as the richest, the toughest, the most successful person in the room, while simultaneously dealing with very real, very human, untreated trauma behind the scenes.
And eventually something has to give.
It always does. The cracks in the concrete glass happen when the persona the artist has built becomes far too heavy for the human being underneath to carry. That is why finding mental clarity in the booth is so critical.
How does the booth help?
It represents a paradigm shift, where the recording booth transitions from being a place of bravado and performance to a place of desperate confession. The microphone essentially becomes a therapist's couch.
Which flows seamlessly into the last 2 pieces from the booth seating editorials that I want to touch on. Grades of Grit, Navigating the Mental Trenches Through Jab, Hop, and Conscious Bars by M. Rodriguez. And a piece on survival faith and generational healing in modern conscious hip-hop.
Deep topics.
I really want you, the listener, to pause and reflect on this concept. We consume music all day long as entertainment, as background noise. But how does this specific type of conscious music actually serve as a healing mechanism for generational wounds in a community?
If we look at the broader psychological picture, generational trauma is almost always passed down through silence. It is passed down through the things that are not spoken about in families and communities, the pain that is swallowed. What modern conscious hip-hop and the introspective nature of jazz hop do is effectively break that generational silence.
Giving it a voice.
Yes. When a young MC steps to the mic and articulates the specific anxiety of growing up in a red-line neighborhood or the exhausting struggle of trying to maintain your faith when the economic system is rigged against you, they are providing a vocabulary for pain that might have been carried by their parents and grandparents without ever having a voice.
They are saying the quiet part out loud for the whole family tree.
Precisely. The music becomes therapeutic for the creator because they are actively purging the poison from their own system. But it acts as a healing mechanism for the entire community because it broadcasts a vital message. You're not crazy and you are not alone.
Man.
That ability to transmute silent pain into communal healing is the truest definition of grades of grit.
You are not crazy and you are not alone. That is incredibly powerful. Now I want to build a culture bridge from that artistic struggle directly to your everyday hustle.
Let's bring it home.
Let's pivot and pull some absolute gems from the Wellness and Wealth Insights section of Folded Waffle, specifically focusing on the work of R. Sinclair. Sinclair wrote an editorial that reads like an urban survival guide for the mind.
Sinclair always delivers.
It's titled The Taxonomy of the Takers, Reclaiming the Sovereignty of the Self-Sufficient Mind.
A must-read.
There is a quote in this piece that stopped me in my tracks. The world doesn't move to the beat of a single drum, it moves to the rhythm of. And Sinclair leaves it open-ended in the text, implying a chaotic mix of competing frequencies.
Because everyone has an agenda.
Let's talk about these takers. In your daily life, in your business, in your creative spaces, how do you actually identify a taker before they drain you dry?
The taxonomy of the takers is a critical framework for anyone trying to build anything of value. Because as Sinclair points out, the world moves to the rhythm of competing agendas. Everyone wants something.
Everyone.
But a taker isn't always a cartoon villain who overtly steals money from your bank account. Most dangerous takers are incredibly subtle. They are the people who slowly siphon your enthusiasm, your precious time, and your creative capital without ever offering any reciprocal value.
Give me a real-world example. What does a subtle taker look like in the wild?
In business, the classic taker is the person who constantly asks to take you out for a $4 coffee so they can pick your brain for 2 hours about your industry expertise. But they mysteriously disappear whenever it's time to actually sign a consulting contract.
Oh, we all know that person.
They want your decade of experience for the price of a latte.
It's insulting.
It is. In personal relationships, a taker is the friend whose daily crises always somehow overshadow your major victories. You call them to celebrate a promotion, and within 2 minutes, the conversation is entirely about their latest drama.
They hijack the energy.
Reclaiming the sovereignty of your mind means establishing rigid, unapologetic borders around your energy. It is recognizing that your attention is a finite currency, and you have to stop spending it on people who are bankrupting your spirit.
You have to protect that currency at all costs. And Sinclair actually continues this theme with 2 more related articles. The frequency of interruption and protecting your frequency in a world of static.
The static is everywhere.
We live in an era where the average person's phone buzzes, dings, or lights up over 100 times a day. Emails, Slack messages, social media tags, breaking news alerts. How does a listener practically guard their time and their creative vision when the whole world is just generating endless static?
You have to realize that the static is not an accident. It is designed to disorient you. The frequency of interruption is actually a corporate tool of control.
Explain that.
Think about it. If you are constantly reactively responding to incoming notifications, you can never enter a state of deep, proactive creation. You are spending your entire day just managing other people's emergencies and priorities.
You're just putting out fires.
Protecting your frequency requires intentional, sometimes aggressive isolation. It means creating specific blocks of time in your day where the world simply cannot reach you. Turn the phone off. Close the tabs.
Just disconnect.
If you want to build a business, write an album, or honestly even just maintain your basic peace of mind, you have to treat your focus as a heavily guarded fortress. You cannot let the static dictate your tempo.
I love the idea of treating your focus like a fortress. And what's brilliant is that Folded Waffle's editor's picks actually provide a field guide to the specific people who are trying to breach that fortress.
The archetypes.
They break down these very specific archetypes of toxic personalities, and it is eerily accurate. They outline the bad faith inquisitor, the clipboard kings, the solution slayer from an article titled The What Else Waltz, and my personal favorite, the petty architect.
Yeah.
People who literally take pride in being a roadblock.
We deal with them every day.
I know everyone listening has dealt with at least one of these people this week alone, so let's unpack them. Let's start with the solution slayer doing the what else waltz. What does that look like?
The solution slayer is a classic trap in corporate and creative environments. This is the person who brings a problem to you and asks for your input. But no matter what brilliant, well-researched solution you bring to the table, they cross their arms, lean back, and say, okay, but what else?
Oh, that makes my blood boil just hearing it.
Because it's a trap. They don't actually want to solve the problem. If they solve the problem, they lose the excuse to complain. They want to maintain a position of power by acting as the ultimate unsatisfied judge of your ideas. The what else waltz is a psychological dance designed to exhaust you into submission.
Exactly. It's exhausting. And what about the petty architect? the person who takes pride in being a roadblock. I feel like I encounter these people at the DMV, at the bank, and in every middle management meeting ever.
The petty architect is a master of weaponized bureaucracy. These are individuals who do not possess the talent, vision, or courage to build their own dreams, so they extract their self-worth from their ability to delay yours.
Just slowing you down for sport.
They are the gatekeepers who demands a form filled out in triplicate, signed in blue ink on a Tuesday, just so they can feel a brief surge of authority.
So how do you defeat a petty architect? Because if you yell at them, they win. They love that.
Exactly. The street-smart strategy for dealing with a petty architect is emotional starvation.
Emotional starvation.
You must never show them that they are frustrating you. Their fuel is your exasperation. When they throw a ridiculous roadblock in your way, you respond with cold, polite compliance or serene detachment. If you deny them the emotional reaction they are craving, their power completely dissolves.
Which brings us to the ultimate street-smart strategy highlighted on the site, the power of strategic silence.
A very hard lesson to learn.
Folded Waffle published an entire suite of articles on this concept. We're talking about titles like The Strategic Surrender, Why Giving Away the Small Win is Your Biggest Power Move, Unpacking the Ego Behind the Last Word, The Art of the Unspoken, Why Silence is the Ultimate Power Move, and When Silence is Power, Dealing with Loudmouths Who Can't Stop Talking.
All brilliant pieces.
Culturally, we are so conditioned to believe that we have to win every single argument. We are taught that walking away makes you weak and that you must have the last word to prove you are strong, but these articles are arguing the exact opposite.
It forces you to ask a very uncomfortable question. What is true authority? True authority does not need to constantly announce itself. A lion doesn't have to roar every 5 minutes to prove it's a lion.
Facts.
The desperate obsession with having the last word is purely ego. It is a glaring sign of deep insecurity. The strategic surrender is essentially a chess move. Imagine you are in a petty argument with a coworker or dealing with a loudmouth in a boardroom who is escalating the situation, actively trying to bait you into losing your cool.
They want you to snap.
By simply stepping back, nodding, and letting them have that small, meaningless win, you are preserving your mental energy for the actual war rather than dying in a pointless skirmish over a paperclip.
That is so hard to do in the moment, though. Your pride flares up.
It requires immense discipline. But remember, silence creates a vacuum. When you deal with a loudmouth who can't stop talking, your refusal to argue forces them to listen to the echo of their own voice.
Just let them talk to themselves.
If you just let them keep talking without giving them anything to push against, eventually they will expose their own foolishness and talk themselves into a corner without you ever having to lift a finger. Letting your opponent defeat themselves is the ultimate power move.
I absolutely love that. Let them listen to their own echo. You are not obligated to RSVP to every argument you are invited to. That Waffle fam is pure mental wealth right there.
Absolute wealth.
All right, we are coming into the home stretch here. Let's run through a rapid-fire breakdown of some of the wilder, more diverse content on the site because Folded Waffle really does cover the entire human spectrum. We are going to impartially report the headlines here just to give you a taste of the global and the quirky.
Let's hear them.
First Night dropped a heavy financial analysis piece titled Bitcoin Gold and Silver Crash, What Now War Stocks and How to Sell a Business. It is a stark, unfiltered look at the turbulent economic realities in global markets right now.
Very serious macro analysis.
But then you keep scrolling and there is this absolutely fascinating juxtaposition in another Night article title. The title is literally Dark Truths, Epstein Files Tied to World Power and Bitcoin. The keys to a healthy marriage.
That is incredible.
I just have to stop and marvel at that for a second. How do the Epstein Files, global cryptocurrency conspiracies, and marriage counseling end up separated by a single vertical line in the exact same headline? That is the ultimate internet whiplash.
It is hilarious,
Yeah.
but it is also a remarkably accurate snapshot of the modern information age. Think about the daily digital diet of the average person today.
It's all over the place.
In one breath, you're reading about global financial crashes, dark geopolitical scandals, and complex macroeconomic power structures. And in the very next breath, in the exact same scroll, you are reading an article about how to use I statements to communicate better with your spouse about doing the dishes.
Just totally different worlds.
It perfectly illustrates the chaotic reality of modern life. We are constantly forced to process world-shaking macro events right alongside deeply intimate, personal micro-realities. It's absurd, but it is undeniably real.
Pure chaos, but we navigate it. Let's lighten the mood with some pop culture. Folded Waffle has been reviewing a ton of the recent Hot Ones episodes, and it is glorious.
Yeah, show on the internet.
They covered the power couple dynamic of Ciara versus Russell Wilson trying to keep their composure. They reviewed Mr. Beast facing his scariest challenge yet while eating wings that are basically covered in battery acid.
Sweating it out.
They highlighted Will Arnett literally joking about wanting to fire his publicist while his face was melting off. And Dominic Mysterio and the Judgment Day playing Hot Ones wing pong. There's something deeply satisfying about watching millions of dollars of corporate media training completely break down and evaporate after wing number 7.
It is the ultimate great equalizer. No matter how famous you are, you cannot out-PR a Carolina Reaper.
Facts. And finally, to perfectly balance out the global scandals and the screaming celebrities, we have to shout out the ultimate local slice of life piece on the site. Waffle Report. A quiet Saturday at posh bagel Castro Valley.
The contrast is beautiful.
From international conspiracies to a quiet bagel in the East Bay, that is the true folded waffle range.
Honestly, it grounds you.
Yeah.
After you've engaged with the deep mental trenches, the industry politics, the heavy generational trauma, and the global economic crashes, sometimes the most profound revolutionary thing you can do for your own mental health is just appreciate a quiet Saturday morning at a local spot with a good bagel. It's all part of the same complex human experience.
Absolutely. Find the peace where you can. Well, Waffle Fam, that brings us to the end of this journey. We have covered a massive amount of ground today, from Brooklyn drill to strategic silence. But remember, all this culture, all this critique, and this incredible community is waiting for you 24/7. Make sure you hit up foldedwaffle.com to read these editorials, dive into these concepts, and listen to these artists for yourself.
Don't just listen, apply it.
Apply it. If you are an independent artist, a writer, or a creator out there building your own altar out of industry scraps, go to the Add Your Flavor section on the site and submit your content. Get your voice heard. Stop waiting for permission.
You have to step up.
And to the whole Waffle fam listening right now, if you appreciate the deep dives and the unscripted truth, visit the tip jar on the site to drop a donation and fuel the magic. Or check out the merch and bundles in the shop. Independent media only survives if we actively support it.
The culture only thrives if the community invests in the architects building it.
Big facts. Now we want to leave you with a final provocative thought to carry you through the week. There is a powerful Creole motto prominently featured on the Folded Waffle site. La vie c'est musique ou c'est un bout. Life is music. Your heart is the drum.
A beautiful sentiment.
So as you step back out into the world today, into your office, your studio, or your daily commute, I challenge you to deeply consider what kind of rhythm you are setting with your own drum. Are you letting the relentless static, the bad faith inquisitors, and the petty architects throw off your beat? Are you dancing to the frantic tempo of someone else's emergency? Or are you fiercely guarding your frequency, standing firm in your alignment and dictating your own tempo?
Guard that frequency.
Keep that thought echoing in your mind as you navigate the week. Protect your peace, build your altars, and keep the culture moving forward. We are signing off.
Say it with your chest when you say that. This is the Waffle Report. Wake up, break out, cut through the noise. This is the Waffle Report. Crunch time chatter for the girls and boys. Flip that script, don't twist, don't toy. Say it one more time. The Waffle Report. Hey, say it one more time. The Waffle Report.